3, 4.
The volunteer force in this town is declining.
They get apathetic, to drill they don't come.
And not a few more of them think of resigning.
Their love for a soldier's life only a hum.
Parades in the morning, I'm told, made them surly.
Scarce 1 out of 10 to be drilled there appears.
Turning out at 6 a.m. they said was too early.
9 or 10 was the time suited our volunteers.
They're split into companies with such rum dresses.
You'd think they were going to some masquerade.
The Rutland more officers than privates possesses.
And into obscurity soon it will fade. There's a split in the camp, they've a down on Balneavis, because he's too lenient with them it appears. Disorganization I clearly perceive is at work mongst our gallant and brave volunteers.
Now there's Joseph Cochrane, and often I greet him.
In battle the Marys he'd put to the rout.
His volunteer cap's on whenever I meet him.
He wears it to save a bell topper, no doubt.
And there's Tabuto, if a conflict was raging,
he'd rush to the front and the men he would cheer.
And when on the wharf brandy casks he's done gouging,
he appears in the ranks as a brave volunteer.
There's Alan who roasteries, is a retailer,
declares that he'll never be put on the shelf
of the foe. Andrew says too he'll be a sailor, and appears with a gun just as tall as himself.
A good-looking tailor obeys to the summons. He takes up the rifle and throws down the shears. I fancy in cutting out he'd be a rum un and inspire them with all for our brave volunteers.
Against these Marys he'll make a resistance, but I fear he's a great deal too gouty for that. In retreating he'd be left behind in the distance,
and be in the same plight as his friend Mac the Fat.
There's Leroy the sailmaker, and though 'tisn't proper,
his comrades in arms oft revile him with jeers.
I'm told they've nicknamed this poor chap the Grasshopper,
cause he jumps about so with a brave volunteer.
There's little Von Sturmer, that's now on the paper, was afraid that in battle someday he'd get hurt, so he very soon turned up the volunteer caper.
The best thing he thought he could do was desert. And there's Jacob Bryan, whose valor increases as Gumbo Gum once on the stage he appears. But the giant gave way and fell down into pieces,
to the wonder and laughter of I volunteer.
Balneavis relented and resolved that poor Brighton should at last get his belt to inspect all the rifles and see it presented to the modest sharpshooter. Quite anxious I felt, so I went to the barracks where they were collecting. When Brighton got hold of the belt he shed tears, and the speech that Balneavis made was so affecting that it quite overcame all the brave volunteers. Oh, but who is that hero on horseback, oh tell me, in such a queer coat trimmed with such dingy braid? Is it Wellington's ghost? All my doubts now dispel me. Say, who is that buffer so strangely arrayed?
That's Captain Fitzgerald, but I'm pretty sure now the way he is mounted provokes laughs and cheers. The screw he is on is a regular cure now. Oh, give him